Dana, it's time to get out of the Apex, brother. We're having Apex events after Apex event every week. It's 2024. COVID is over. It's done with. It's out of here. See ya, bye. Let's fucking move on from the Apex. Again, I have an entire plan laid out for you, which I will review again in this video. Dana White is looking to move on to a couple of new markets. Plans to visit a couple of new places in 2025. Dana says in this interview, shout out to MMA Orbit for this graphic. We're going to try and hit Africa for the first time next year. We're going to try to do Spain for the first time next year. So South Africa likely with Dricus du Plessis, and Spain at some point if Ilia Topuria beats Max, or if Max beats him and then they'll do an immediate rematch for the belt. Very, very interesting stuff. Two fun places, two big audiences. Spain loves their MMA. We've seen it. Ilia Topuria was invited out to, I think, Real Madrid for a game or Barcelona for a game. And he was greeted with crazy applause. We know the South Africans all across the board, every color, every race, every creed, they all love Dricus. He brings it home. He represents a good South African people. Awesome to see that. We're tired of the Apex, Dana. Start doing fight nights all over the place. Put this event in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, Kansas. People will show up for the UFC brand. You will sell out 2,000, 3,000, 10,000, 20,000. You probably sell out a 40,000 person arena in fucking Raleigh, North Carolina, in fucking Wichita, Kansas, in a medium-sized city. You could fucking sell out an arena. I just know it. They've done it before and they'll continue to do it every time they travel. The Apex makes you long for those events outside of the Apex. The Apex is so small, so quiet. It's a fun fight environment for a contender series, for the Ultimate Fighter, but it's not meant for big-time MMA fights. Let's recall my plan, my idea for Apex. If you're going to do Apex, this is what you need to do. Dana White, UFC, Hunter Campbell, everybody in there. You need to fucking listen to me right now. The Apex needs to be used as the gateway to the UFC. When you sign fighters off of the Contender Series, whether they're good or not, we don't know yet. We don't know what their level of competition is half the time. The Ultimate Fighter guys, they don't come off the best competition. They come into the UFC and they get fucking absolutely bum rushed. There's no question about it. Same thing with the Contender Series guys. You need a way to vet them. You need a way to check out what they're made of, what they can do in the cage. You need to see that before you put them on the world stage, unless it's some kind of crazy outlier like a Bo Nickel or a Khamzat Chimaev, where you see them and you need to launch them straight into pay-per-views. You need to launch them straight into fight nights. There needs to be a process where you move on from the Contender Series to Apex fights. If you're going to keep Apex fights around, you better do 3 events per month. You see that? 3 events per month. 1 Apex, 1 fight night somewhere in the United States where the UFC is based, and then a pay-per-view at the end of the month. You should have a Contender Series type fight. If we're going to do 4 events, you should have a Contender Series thing every single week, once a month of the entire year. Every single month you need to have a Contender Series week. Then you move on to an Apex week. Save your money on those 2, big time saving money. Then you move to a fight night anywhere in the world, anywhere in the US, I don't care where it is. Regular UFC fight night, free on ESPN. And then you do a pay-per-view once a month and stack that thing to the gills. These should be the biggest pay-per-views of the entire year. UFC 308 is stacked. There's guys like RDA. There's guys like Mytelbek Oralbai. There's guys like Farid Basharat on the prelims of this thing. Popular fighters on the prelims of a UFC pay-per-view. That's how it should be. UFC 300 was absolutely stacked. Davison Figueiredo and Cody Garbrandt, former champions, on the first fight of the night on a pay-per-view. That's what I'm fucking talking about. That's how pay-per-view should be. Every single pay-per-view. 12 pay-per-views a year. 12 fight nights minimum outside of the Apex every single year. You should be headlined by a big fight. You should be having local fighters that are good, solid fighters, that are fun, entertaining fighters, local fighters to the area, whether it's Northeast America, Middle East, Southeast Asia, fucking Europe, somewhere. You should be traveling all over the place for these fight nights. The UFC pay-per-views could be anywhere. Fight nights need to be all over the place. 12 of them a year, 12 pay-per-views, 12 fight nights, traveling the globe. You can have 12 Apex events with 1 headlining bout. This should be a kind of boring mid-level top 15 matchup at the Apex. 12 of those per year maximum. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? So you have a terrible undercard, relatively in terms of name value. They're going to look terrible to a casual audience, but the hardcores are going to want to tune in and see what all these guys are about. because they're going to be coming off of the 12 Contender Series bouts or fight nights that we have throughout the year. See what I'm talking about? 12 Contender Series, 12 Apex Fight Night cards, 12 regular fight nights across the globe, and then 12 pay-per-views. You should be contending on the Contender Series, getting your contract, fighting for your contract, impressing Dana White and everybody else. Moving on to the Apex, unless you're some outlier and you get to jump the line, okay? Like an Alex Pereira. You need to prove yourself. You need to get 2 or 3 fantastic performances or 2 or 3 finishes on Apex cards in your first year of fighting in the UFC. There should be an actual process. Let's legitimize MMA. Let's legitimize the UFC. TikTok, you're 30 years old now. Let's get things going. Let's have a process of getting into the UFC and getting onto pay-per-views. Chael Sonnen always says it. You should be moving up the rankings. You should be moving up the card. You should be moving up in entertainment value. You should be moving up the card. You make it from this fight. You start in the Apex, doing the Contender Series. You make your way into the UFC. You have 2 or 3 good fights. Prove yourself that you're an entertaining fighter. And then you get to move on to the world stage. The free fight nights all over the place. You prove yourself there. You get 2 or 3. And I'm flipping off the camera right now. But you get 3 or 4 good performances away at some kind of arena somewhere in the world. Prove to a fan base, prove to an audience that you can have fun fights. If you have one bad fight in there, that's okay because you have 2 or 3 that prove that you're legitimate, that prove that you deserve to be on pay-per-view. Then you move on to the early prelims of a pay-per-view. And it's stacked because we know who you are. The casuals, the hardcores know you from Contender Series. The people that have ESPN Plus know you from the Apex events. And then the casual fans know you from the fight nights. And whoa, that guy had a great finish. Now you're on the fucking pay-per-view. And now it's a big time event. And now you're on the lower level of the pay-per-view, the early prelims, the prelims, wherever they match you up. And somebody who comes in, alpha this, the casual fan sees who this is. Oh, this guy's awesome. I got to see this. Then the casual fan learns about the pay-per-view and they're like, oh shit, if this guy's fighting on the prelims, what's next for the rest of the card? Make it easy for the casual fans to understand. Break it down for them. Promote it that way. Here's Contender Series. Here's where the guys that you don't know about, this is for the casuals. If you don't know about them, here's where we move on. You contend to get into the UFC because the UFC is very exclusive. Only the best fight in the UFC. So you have to contend there. And then you have to prove yourself. You have to make your way through some tough matchups at the bottom of the rankings. Put on some good performances. Get some good finishes. Then the hardcores will be behind you. The hardcores will love you if you put on great performances. Otherwise, you just kind of fade out and you get kicked out and you go on to the regional side or you go to PFL or Bellator or whatever. The hardcores will be behind you all the way. Then you move on to the world stage and you're on TV. You're everywhere. Then the casuals start to go, oh, that guy's really fun. That guy's really entertaining. That guy's really good. I like that guy. I was flipping through channels and I saw him get a great finish. Fantastic. Then you're able to push the pay-per-views. This is not just a fighter's perspective. This is the UFC talking. This would push the UFC forward in so many ways, in such unimaginable ways. They would skyrocket in popularity. The casual fans would have a through line to follow. It would be easy to follow for casuals who don't watch the sport week to week. Why are they at a big arena? Why are they selling out soccer stadiums one week and then they're in the Apex the next? Promote it that way. Don't say that this is a terrible card. Just say, hey, this is what this is. These are guys contending to get into the upper ranks of the UFC. This is a fight night headliner between this guy and this guy. They might not be the most entertaining, but they're this, and they're well-rounded, and they're technical here, and they're the best jiu-jitsu, or they're the best boxer, or whatever. A Rob Font versus a Cheeto Vera Apex main event. That would be a big-time fight. That's okay. Have one big-time fight at the top of an Apex card, and the rest of the card should be guys fighting to get a spot on the big stage. I don't know how I could really reiterate this anymore, but pay-per-views should be stacked. They should have one solid world title fight and a great undercard, or they should have 2 title fights or 3 title fights. Once a month, there should be at least 1 title fight happening with a great undercard, stacked to the gills, top-ranked fights across all divisions. There should be ranked fighters on the early prelims for those fights. That's what I'm fucking talking about. Do you understand what I'm saying? Stacked to the gills from top to bottom ranked fighters. You can do it. They can do it. UFC Fight Night should have local people and a big-time main event in the main event. Apex should have a mid-size, mid-card kind of main event, ranked guys, but meh kind of thing. Apex, that's 4 weeks. 4 weeks every month, and you would have constant events. You would have very consistent scheduling. You would have a consistent through line. The ultra hardcores, the hardcores, the casuals will jump in, then pay-per-view time. You'd be selling so many pay-per-views because I saw my guy here and I want to see what's next. The casual fan needs to know what's next. what am I getting for the rest of the card? If I see a great guy on the prelims, on the early prelims, of course I'm going to buy the pay-per-view because that's not even the best they have to offer. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not that difficult. Come on, UFC. Fucking respond to the video. Talk to your fucking boy here, okay? Anyway, for anyone watching, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one.